I gotta admit, I'm a really big fan of Adam Eve, and since we're only months away from Invincible Season 4, I just felt like it was about that time to talk about a little bit of Invincible in general. And one character I just felt like it was definitely long overdue for me to talk about was Adam Eve. Now, I love Adam Eve as a character, I love her in terms of her powers, but I gotta admit, she makes no sense. Like, her powers and all of the above make absolutely zero sense, and I'll probably have to make a video later on about why Adam Eve genuinely had the potential to be the main character of Invincible or of her own show. But in general, her powers are reality warping, but it feels like, for convenience sake, she is massively underpowered. And a lot of you might be like, well, yeah, that's not really her fault, that's the writing's fault. And I'm gonna put my hands up and say I completely agree. The writing of Adam Eve, that is what makes absolutely zero sense at all. Writing a character with that amazing powers, like such high level powers, and giving her really, really weird restrictions, based on plot, is definitely an odd thing to do. And I believe even the writer himself has said, like, when he was creating Adam Eve, he was definitely in a big, or an odd spot where he didn't know what to do with Adam Eve and her powers. Because even putting limiters on Adam Eve obviously was not enough. Her powers are essentially reality warping, right? Like, what she can do is ridiculous. The big thing we do see her end up doing, quite a bit, is matter manipulation. Now, for the most part, she can't actually mess with living matter, but even if we put that as a baseline, that's completely fine, because that is what her limiters are doing. We saw in the Conquest fight when she basically revived herself when the limiters were broken and she shatters past it, aka affecting living matter. But the living matter itself is obviously being limited via the blockers in her head. Now, with that said, though, I always found the blockers not to be enough to make her such a substantial hero, because everything and all what it has to do with her powers has a lot to do with just her imagination itself. Very similar to a Green Lantern, right? Obviously, we know the Green Lanterns have their own kind of sections, aka the Green Lantern has, based on his willpower, that is how strong he can truly be. But his imagination is truly the only limiter to how amazing he can be and how ridiculously powerful he can be. But in terms of Adam Eve, her restrictions actually don't go as far as you think. Yeah, she's not OP in terms of her limiters don't allow her just to revive herself over and over and over and over again, which technically and eventually she will be able to do that, but that's kind of beyond the point. At least early on in Adam Eve, she's still limited to the part of I have to do certain things in a certain way. And yes, I do agree with the idea of she is limited in terms of stamina, stuff like that. But holy crap, how many times do you see Adam Eve in a fight and you see her use some sort of energy projection, construct or something along those lines, and you're like, why don't you use that more often? One of the first times we see her in general, she's utilizing basically this ability to put a bubble on someone's head, and basically it's from the Flaxen army, puts a bubble on someone's head and essentially makes them pass out or lose consciousness in general. So what she did was get rid of all airflow or basically, oxygen to the lungs by just making it so it's impossible to breathe. We have seen so many different things like this from Adam Eve. And Adam Eve, even if you want to go really Green Lantern-esque, she even makes constructs big hammers, and you see her throw up these walls, which everybody makes fun of the Adam Eve walls, but these are things she can create, and we have seen her get very creative with what she can do. Shoot, when we look at Conquest, yes, Conquest, somebody who is one of the most powerful Viltrumites in the entire universe, she was able to freeze him entirely by basically making the molecules all around him extremely like heavy and basically stuck him in place, making the air around him solidify and making it so he could no longer move, and they were keeping him still. So if she's able to do something like that, right, why can't she do even more? What about the armor she created while facing off with Conquest? She was able to create armor that essentially made it so when he hit her, the armor took the brunt of the attack. I mean, this would have definitely been helpful when she was fighting in the Invincible War, when Omnimark basically broke and shattered her leg and slammed her into the ground. So it's pretty obvious that she has a lot of constructs, a lot of abilities that she just essentially doesn't utilize. And you might be saying, well, what about, time, the amount of time that she's practiced and, all this time in between, certain events obviously would have given her more of an ability to, figure things out, more of an ability to kind of learn how to properly use her powers. But we seen in the Atom Eve special that she was able to use her powers essentially at a ridiculously high level, if not already peak level, when she was super young. I mean, we saw her do things that we end up seeing her do later on in her life in the same way, essentially saying that Atom Eve is the same strength, if not just stronger than normal, right? So the young version of Atom Eve was able to do everything the older version essentially was able to do. So at the end of the day, there's really no excuse for not being able to do certain things, right? Certain things in terms of constructs and stuff like that. And you could be like, well, maybe her imagination is horrible. And it's like, yeah, maybe. But at the same time, we have seen her do things that are very, very intelligent all the freaking time. And it kind of hurts your brain a little bit when you see her just like essentially not do things that could shut down a villain very easily. I mean, we have seen her, right? We have seen her straight up like put people behind bars or in prison very easily. We have seen her, essentially create bubbles around people's heads to knock them out entirely. We have seen her literally freeze Conquest in place, somebody who is a ridiculously powerful villain, and we have seen her do so freaking much. I feel like it was countless amounts of things. The basic things that she should start thinking about, the basic things that you would think she would be thinking about, is if they have anything that is non-living on them, like gauntlets that are creating giant earthquakes, just for say, maybe if they have anything, right, involving like, some sort of kind of non-matter based or non-living matter, based thing, maybe she should find a way to kind of manipulate it. Maybe she should find a way to kind of destroy it or affect it or do anything along those lines. But that's really not the only thing. Everything would become kind of trivial in terms of Atom Eve, or at least should become trivial. I mean, bullets would legitimately not matter ever, right? Bullets themselves would not matter. What about the clothing on people's bodies? She could manipulate the clothing into doing something along those lines, right? Kind of afflicting something upon the person. Maybe making the clothing like way heavier, maybe making the clothing kind of into something else, or at least something of that kind of degree. And only reason why I bring this up, or the main reason why I bring this up, is I just started rewatching Invincible because I felt like, let me prepare for the eventual arrival of the next season. And I was rewatching the fight with Doc Seismic, and I believe it's like episode 3 of season 1, and it's so interesting that he has these gauntlets, these kind of gloves or something along those lines that kind of creates like his own powers, like earthquakes and yada yada yada. And these things are not living matter. Like, these things are not living matter, right? So even with the limiters on, she could essentially make these non-existent, turn them into dust, right? Turn them into nothingness, maybe turn them into like really heavy, gauntlets, or really heavy cuffs or something along those lines, and just essentially make this fight insanely trivial. And frankly, she can make almost every fight trivial, especially with the idea of like making somebody's like suit of armor or anything like that like way heavier, or making it non-existent or something to that degree, because we have seen it. Like, we have seen so many times where she's able to do things to this degree, create basically water out of nothing. Like, she can do that. And we know that she was able to damage Conquest because he's literally making these reactions. When she's hitting him with constructs and stuff like that, he is making reactions to this, like he's getting genuinely hurt. So it's pretty obvious that she packs one hell of a punch, and she has probably the most insane hacks you will ever see. So it's kind of mind-boggling that she straight up just doesn't do anything. Like, there's a lot of times where she'll just throw up these useless walls. She'll just, sling these like little light abilities, or, kind of these enhanced little attacks or energy projection like attacks. But these things are ridiculously strong if she utilizes them properly. And we saw how effective it is in the highest of the highs in terms of, peak moments of Adam Eve. Like, when she is showing her true capabilities, like, she is truly ridiculous in terms of how insanely powerful it is. I think it was definitely kind of overlooked at how strong they were going to make her, like, in terms of her powers. I mean, she is essentially a reality warper to an extent, and she can straight up change matter, manipulate matter. She can change density, right? She can create basically nothing out of something, right? Or create something out of nothing, excuse me, my fault. And she has even crazier abilities when she breaks those limiters. So it makes you think, like, she is probably the most superhuman durable person like in existence, because she essentially can't die. She just revives herself. And on top of that, as long as she's not thinking like a dummy, like she's not thinking like an idiot, she can essentially make every fight insanely trivial, making somebody's, most powerful kind of thing, or most powerful like technological advancement or technology that they're using, gadget you could say, into literally sand, right? Just boom, gone, right? Just like that. Now you might be like, well, there's people with superpowers, so what about that? And yeah, 100% that is definitely an issue, but she has abilities, like legitimately abilities that can straight up restrain people, like easily restrain people, put them some sort of like, jail cell, like we have seen her literally do, put people in a jail cell. And she can do that. She can straight up restrict them, maybe make the, like, kind of like purple or pink chains, however you want to say it, like pink chains that hold them to the ground, maybe pink chains that wrap around them and basically restrict them entirely. Like I said, though, as well, like making their clothing maybe impossible to move in, maybe make the density and the weight so much more like ridiculous that they can barely move. I mean, Adam Eve's potential in terms of what she can do, in terms of the powers she can do, I mean, it is ridiculous. And it makes just no sense at all that she just doesn't do any of these things. Like, she holds off on doing these things until the plot really allows her to do so, right? Mark was losing against Conquest, so she decided to pull out all the stops and make it basically, or show Conquest that she's actually stupidly overpowered. And she could have been essentially stopping the entire Invincible War in like one foul swoop. Like, she could have handled the Invincible War way better, and there's no way she should have been getting hurt in certain scenarios, especially against someone like Omnimark, which, don't get me wrong, like, these Invincibles are strong, like, they are very strong, but her abilities allow her to do such ridiculous things that could slow them down, halt them entirely, hurt them, because we've seen her hurt Conquest. These are things she can genuinely do. Put a bubble on their head and suffocate them. I mean, these are things she has done and continues to do throughout the series of Invincible. But then we also just get her throwing up shields, right? Like these baby shields. and it's like these baby shields just get shattered. These baby shields just get, obliterated in one foul swoop. And it's such a funny thing to watch because it's obviously the writers writing them in themselves into a very, very odd corner. So they essentially have to nerf her, very, very badly. And one way I could see them just nerfing her is get rid of the limiters. The limiters are fine, right? Like you can get rid of them as long as you make it so like the drawbacks of her utilizing her powers just in any degree are like drastic, right? They're really, really drastic. Like if she wanted to save someone's life, like revive them, she would like essentially put herself like out of commission for like the whole day, right? Or maybe even longer, right? That's how you would have to essentially nerf a character like this to make them even remotely balanced. Like the constructs themselves, like, because obviously reviving somebody, that's the drastic version of it. So the constructs that are super strong and, her ability to utilize them, she should just get tired quicker when she utilizes them. So she has to really focus on like what she wants to use in certain scenarios, because if she doesn't, then she could tire herself out and not be able to utilize her powers like at all, basically. Now there's other ways you can make her, nerf her, and do stuff like that. But it's so interesting that the way they decided to basically nerf her was to essentially make her not do things that we all know she can do, which definitely goes into the fact that she makes absolutely no sense at all. And no hate on the character. I feel like every time I make a video on this, some people think that I'm just flat out blaming the character. Obviously, the writers have everything to do with the character themselves. But when you look at shows like this, you kind of have to direct and point the finger at the character themselves so that you can really explain what you're trying to get across. And overall, I love her as a character. I love Adam Eve. I love Mark and Adam Eve. I love them together. I love her powers. I think they're so freaking dope and cool. But yeah, when you add powers that are essentially overpowered of all hell, like insanely broken, yeah, you're going to run into issues where you're like, shoot, how do I write this? Because this person is supposed to, actually be effective. This evil villain is supposed to have, like actually good points where they can actually hurt the heroes. But if I have Adam Eve here, or Adam Eve is here, or she obviously would be there, I mean, she would be able to shut it down like this, right? How do you fix that? Well, you fix it by, for one, not making a character that broken. But secondly, if you already made him that broken, you got to put even more limiters on them, right? Not just limiters in terms of life and death and all that stuff, yada, yada, yada. You got to make it so there's drawbacks to her utilizing the more overpowered side of herself, so that when she does utilize it, she feels that drawback, right? Maybe it puts her out of commission for that day, or it puts her out of commission in general. Maybe her powers just disappear because she used too much of it. I don't know, right? That's what you would have to do with that level of a broken character. But at the same time, she really doesn't make sense, right? Adam Eve doesn't really make sense in terms of a character in a story like this, but also doesn't make sense in the fact that she straight up chooses not to use her overpowered abilities when there really isn't many drawbacks. And obviously the revival thing, I get that. That's a whole, the limiters are on that. But everything else that we've seen her use, with the highest of high strength based villains, dude, we have seen her use these with someone else, so why not use them quite a bit, almost all the time. It's not like it drains her that much. Now, with that said, I would love to hear what you guys have to say about it, about Adam Eve, about her powers, about them really not making sense, at least in terms of the way she uses them. I would love to hear what you guys have to say in the comment section below. And I would love to hear what you guys have to say. Good, bad, or whatever, indifferent, your opinions on Adam Eve as a character. And as always, if you enjoyed this video, YouTube believes you'll enjoy this one, so might as well go check it out.